The Battle of Gettysburg took place over a span of 3 days, from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863. The battle concluded in a Union victory, and thus turned the tide of the war in their favor. Early on in the battle, at around 11 a.m. of the first day, the McPherson Ridge Railway cut was the site of a Union counterattack led by Lieutenant Colonel Rufus R. Dawes against the Confederates, who consequently withdrew into the cut and shot at them. By the end of the struggle, Dawes remarks, "My notice that we were upon the enemy was a general cry from our men of, 'Throw down your muskets! Down with your muskets!' Running forward through our line of men, I found myself face to face with hundreds of rebels, whom I looked down upon in the railroad cut, which was where I stood, 4 feet deep. I shouted, 'Where's the colonel of this regiment?' An officer in gray with stars on his collar, who stood among the men in the cut, said, 'Who are you?' I said, 'I command this regiment. Surrender, or I will fire.' The officer replied not a word, but promptly handed me his sword, and his men who still held them threw down their muskets. The coolness, self-possession, and discipline which held back our men from pouring in a general volley saved 100 lives of the enemy, and as my mind goes back to the fearful excitement of the moment, I marvel at it. My own dear wife, I am sitting on a rail but can hardly realize this 4th of July. Am all wet with sweat and don't feel good on that account. 'Tis so sticky and disagreeable. Otherwise I am first rate, and we can hurrah with good grace. For yesterday we gave the Rebs a severe drubbing, and have General Hill and from 5 to 10,000 prisoners. The day before yesterday was terrible fighting. I certainly did think of home and you all, and on your account prayed to be spared. Very near did cannonballs come to me, and pieces of shell flew within 2 feet certain of my head. Some shells burst with a report like a cannon right overhead, and as I was coming back the second time, a percussion shell struck the ground a little way ahead and exploded, throwing the pieces singing through the air. Don't worry about me. I am safe and well so far, and we will trust to God for the future. Worrying will do no good. Look out for all at home and wait. Captain Josiah C. Fuller, in a letter to his wife. Second day of battle. The evening saw the unprompted advance of Union General Daniel Sickles' forces to the plateau around the peach orchard, thinking it better suited for defense. There, they engaged with Confederate General Kershaw's left flank. Captain Adolphus Cavada, an eyewitness, states, "The air was soon full of flying shot, shell, and canister, and a groan here and there attested to their effect. For more than a quarter of an hour, the roar of musketry and the crashing, pounding noise of guns and bursting shells was deafening. Our own immediate lines suffered severely from the enemy's guns enfilading us." The second day of Gettysburg was the bloodiest day of battle, the wheat field, being littered at its end with the bodies of over 4,000 slain and wounded, was deemed the bloody wheat field. Shells were cutting off the arms, legs, and heads of our men. cutting them in two and exploding in their bodies, tearing them into mincemeat. Then there was the solemn thud of the minute balls, men crying for water, groaning, praying, and so much there was heroin that my speech fails to describe it all. William A. Johnson, Private of Company F of 2nd South Carolina. As we pushed forward, a bullet struck my right arm and passed through it. As we charged into the wheat field, a shell exploded and shattered my right leg and killed 2 of my comrades. When I was shot in the arm, the feeling was the same as though I had been struck on the elbow. The feeling of numbness came into the arm, and I turned to the comrade by my side and asked him why he had hit me. He said, "I did not hit you, but you have been shot and you'd better go to the rear." I laughed at him and said I was not hurt bad enough to do so. Shortly after, I was injured, as I've mentioned, by the shell. After my leg was shattered, I fell down, lying for a few minutes unconscious, and when I came to my senses, I was surrounded by the enemy. Private Jacob Henry Cole, 57th New York. The third day of battle, at this very site occurred Pickett's charge, in which General Robert E. Lee ordered an infantry assault against the Union forces of Major General George G. Meade. However, before the charge, Lieutenant General James Longstreet said to Lee, "General, I have been a soldier all my life. I have been with soldiers engaged in fights by couples, by squads, companies, regiments, divisions, and armies, and should know as well as anyone what soldiers can do. It's my opinion that no 15,000 men ever arrayed for battle can take that position." By the end of it, the Confederate charge proved a failure, and thus the Battle of Gettysburg had ended that day in a Union victory. At its end, Gettysburg proved itself the bloodiest battle of the American Civil War. Out of an estimated 165,000, over 50,000 casualties were suffered.